Welcome to Turn a Page, the official comic book club for Nerd Initiative. Each week, the NI Bullpen will be covering the world of comics, talking to creators, deep diving into some fantastic stories, and much more. Now let's hand it over to the team and turn a page.
Welcome to a very special edition of Turn a Page, Nerd Initiative's Comic Book Club on YouTube. My name is Ken M. You know me as the host of the ODPH podcast, but also Nerd Initiative's Comics Editor-in-Chief. Joining me for this special conversation, the assistant editor of Nerd Initiative Comics, Marty Stoked. Marty, what's going on?
How's it going, guys? Thanks for having me.
Oh, absolutely. And if you're watching on video, he's to my right, your left.
That's backwards.
Well, it is from their usual shows. That's how we usually do this. So I let you take it away because I don't even try doing your intro.
Coming at you live and direct straight from the ODPH studio in that fantastic folding chair. Tis I, off the cuff Tom, Nerd Initiative's pop culture connoisseur. Thank you as always. It's always a pleasure.
Absolutely. And like we said, we have a special guest on the line that doesn't need an introduction, but we are definitely going to give him one because he rightfully deserves it. You know his work from such books as Radiant Black, Rogue Sun, The Dead Lucky, No One, Inferno Go Red, and many, many more in the massive verse. But he also has a lot of great new projects on the way as well. And he is also known for a certain Power Rangers podcast that we'll definitely dive into a little bit from that.
Yay.
Returning to the show, ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome to the one and only Michael Busuttil. Michael, what's going on?
Hey guys, not much. A bit of a slow day today, just sort of getting on top of some emails. Lots of stuff going on though, so things are good. How are you guys?
Very good. Very
cold.
Yeah, it's been a good snowstorm here in the New York State, so we've been digging out left and right the past couple of days. But fear not, we are here and we're definitely excited to talk some comics with you. And definitely, 2023 was such a huge year for the Massiverse. And for you, like, how would you describe the year of 2023?
Oh, crazy. Just truly crazy. Like, I think sort of at the start of the year, we had, obviously at the start of the year, you're looking ahead at what you've got scheduled and you have an understanding. And then once you actually get into the middle of it and we were talking about what the Catalyst War would mean in Radiant Black for a long time. And even with all of the knowledge of like decades of comic work between the whole teams and all of that, nothing could quite have prepared us for, just on that book, how much work doubling your workload is. Let alone adding in, Moon Man, and I picked up the Infernals, which we'll talk about, I'm sure, and other books all continuing on, and a Kickstarter for Inferno Go Red, and planning a card game that we're working on, and all sorts of projects, capped off by I got to come to New York for the first time. I've never done that side of America before.
We got to meet you.
I got to meet like a whole bunch of people, and got to be on stage with Kid Cudi announcing his new book. Like a truly like an unfathomable experience. So it was a good year. It was a busy year. My hope is that this year will be a little slower, but like really getting our money's worth out of all the things that we really focus on, if that makes sense. Like yes. Spreading ourselves a little less thin and trying to put some focus into some other exciting stuff. So yeah, a crazy year, but this one's not going to be any different, I don't think.
No, absolutely. 2023 was such a big year for you, and especially New York Comic Con. That had to just be and that was your first time coming to New York City too, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I did an extra sort of week and a bit at the end of just getting to see it as a tourist. Had a small panic attack in the M&M's store. What's that place about?
Oh, really?
I don't like that. I just don't like it. There's not enough M&Ms for them to have a 3-story store that's just about M&Ms.
Yes, there are. It's America.
Yeah, that was sort of what I learned, and that was sort of what I did not respond particularly well to. But I love New York. I could have spent 3-4 more weeks there and getting to do that convention and meeting a whole bunch of people. And we had some issues with some stock at our table, but we still got to move a whole bunch of comics to a whole bunch of new people. So Like that's the really exciting stuff is getting to do that.
Nah, absolutely. I mean, that's the one great thing about going to cons. You get to meet so many fans and just get that admiration, and especially for what you and the team have been doing there. It's been such a great year. And I know kicking off 2024, I know Marty is really excited to talk about a certain book coming out that's only a few weeks away.
Moon Man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Moon Man. Yeah. So so Moon Man, we got an advanced review of it and we were blown away. I mean, the colors and the artistry and just the concept is a little bit different than the normal superhero-esque genre, which is one thing I find refreshing with what you guys try to do, is try to bring new ideas to the table. But how has it been working with, you know, a superstar like Kid Cudi, and how is your, you know, editorial chops changed working with somebody of that, you know, of that caliber? I'm not saying like the other people that you're working with is of that caliber, but
yeah, he's got 3 million huge Instagram followers.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. Agreed.
Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I know, like, when you first started, you haven't really, you know, done any type of editing of a comic book, and here you are, like, working with an amazing talent.
It's weird. I'm not going to pretend that it's not weird. I think like everybody understands that, you know, I've worked with some really cool comics people, and the single most famous comics person in the world is not remotely as famous as Kid Cudi is. The thing that I would love to say is that he's lovely, and it's just like working with any other person that we work with. Like, nice. Obviously there's considerations about like I try to take up less of his time than I might of someone else, because he's a guy who's got a lot going on. But you know, like, I think people sort of might think that this is like, oh, you know, he just sort of like had a thought, gave it to us, let us do it. He's been super hands-on, like co-wrote the script with Kyle. They broke the outline for this first arc and beyond over many years of working together. He was like super hands-on with character designs and what the suit looks like and what the other characters look like. And he's looking at layouts and pages and lettering, and like really just like working with, you know, I'm also working on the Infernals with Noah, who is also new to comics. He's coming from like a film screenwriting perspective, and very much the same, in that they both just like, okay, let's make a comic. Let's really like immerse ourselves in what that process is like, and like really taking advantage of every part of it. It's been great. You know, like, I don't have the most hands-on contact with him. Like, he and Kyle are pretty close and talking pretty regularly, and I'm just sort of like, okay guys, here are our deadlines, here's what we've got to hit. I don't need to be as hands-on because Kyle can be as hands-on, and like I don't need to tell Kyle how to make a comic book. He's done that heaps of times before. But working with him and his team on his end and our team on our end, it's been a real delight. I hope we get to do it for ages, is the dream.
Having that said, you know, that Kid Cudi has really done this whole Moon Man persona himself and has developed the character over years and years and years. What was it like, those first initial steps going, you know, from his concept and the reality that he's created to putting it on the page? Like, were there some difficulties, or was it just smooth sailing? Like, I got this idea, let's put it on paper.
I will admit, like, I was not on this book for quite a while. I sort of came on as like a release date got sort of finalized, and then it was like, okay, we need to do that. But what I understand is, like, look, there was a lot of conversations about working out what the best version of this story was, what the interesting version of this story was, how to tell it in comics. But I don't think, like, there's no big blowout fights, there's no big arguments. It's just lots of back and forth between a bunch of really talented creatives trying to find the ideal version of a story. It was like, it's the dream. It's what you hope for on every book, and it's been really good on this. And, you know, then once we got to bring Marco and Igor and Hassan on to art and color and letter, again, just like, you know, we did, there's pages that we tweaked, and there's colors that we tweaked, and letters that we tweaked right up until the print date for issue 1, just trying to find the best version of this book. But certainly never like it's my way or the highway from anyone. Really, everyone's been great to work with.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, especially too, he's coming in with such a big following too. I mean, there's got to be a lot of pressure to do this, but it sounds like he's really adapting to the comic lifestyle and just really focusing everything about making the best comic possible.
Yeah, and like, my understanding is that that's kind of what it's like on all the stuff he works on. Like when he's on a movie, he is immersing himself in like, okay, let's make a movie. What does it mean to make a movie? What can I learn about making a movie? And he's been like that with comics. It's been great.
That's I mean, oh, go ahead, Marty.
I was just gonna say the cover game and on Moon Man, like I'm super stoked. I'm a huge nut for anything out in space and really love that concept. And I've just always been infatuated with that type of stuff. So all of the covers, like I want them all.
Yeah, I will say, and like,
so good.
I've gotten over the last couple of years to work with truly some of the greatest artists of our time. But being able to email people and be like, hey, I'm doing a book with a guy that you've heard of.
Yeah.
Like, us being able to like email Bill Sienkiewicz and say like, hey, you did the artwork for his first album. Would you then come and do a cover for us for this book? And to just get back the cover we got is like, we can't do that on all of our books, but being able to do it here, there's someone, and I can't say who, someone who I've been a fan of for a very long time, who said yes, sent us through some cover sketches during the week. You'll be seeing that on a later issue. I won't say who it is, but like really for me, I had to like hold in the like, okay, don't gush in this email.
You
be super
fanboyed.
cool and professional. Once they've turned in the cover, then you can be like, hey, by the way, huge fan.
That's amazing.
It's incredible.
That's
and just the colors. Yeah, amazing.
That's the great part about, creators in our generation right now, getting that opportunity to work with, our icons and who we've looked up to. And then we get to have our own little family, because I know Ken and I did that when we met you in New York, just saying.
Yeah. No, I mean, but it's one of those moments too. Like I say, when you can just do that, and then when you see the book hit the shelves too, and it's coming out January 31st, it's going to be one that you're going like, this is really happening. Like it's got to feel like a dream.
It's funny, right? Like in a lot of ways, once we send the book to the printer, it just goes out of my mind because it has to, because that means that the next issue is due in 4 weeks, and like we got to move on, we got to keep going. So it doesn't really become real for me until the comps delivery arrives and I get like a box with some copies in it. And then once it's physical, it's like, oh, we made a real book. And like, truly then it kind of goes out of your mind again. And it wasn't until I went and like rearranged some stuff on my shelf and I was like, well, we made a lot of these things. Like there's a lot of boxes in the spare room just full of comics that we made.
Yeah, I mean that's
it's strange, and I don't know that I'm ever going to get used to it, to be honest.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I'm just happy you got Igor coloring it, because he, like, I haven't been in comics for a long time, but he has quickly become just like one of my favorite colorists because everything that he does pops, and it's just incredible. And this issue is nothing less than extraordinary when it comes to the colors, and I can't wait to see where this book goes. I mean, just the cover alone, like, is so eye-catching. Like, I've been reading comics with my daughter, and she's like, "I want to read that," and I was like, "You can't read that. Like, not a book for you. Nope, not a book for you." And
I don't remember if it ended up at T plus or M, but probably not a book for a child.
Yeah, no, but she just like picked it up, and she's like, "This book looks cool," and I was like, "Yeah, it's real cool, but not right now, not for you." But I mean. The
thing that I should just say briefly about Igor is, like, we all knew from Inferno Go Red that he could do that. Like, we knew going in that he could do that. And then he gave us a whole book where he did that and is, about to start giving us that on a whole second book. But I think between this and Deep Cuts, he's really started, like, stretching and flexing and trying something new. Each new issue of Deep Cuts, I don't know if people are across this, it's like each issue is a 48-page story from the history of jazz. It's a 6-issue miniseries where I think issue 4 is about to come out, or has just issue 4 might have been out last week when we
Just came
record
out last
this.
week. Just came out last week.
Yeah, issue 5 we're putting the finishing touches on. Issue 6 is in progress. Igor's colors in that are like crazy. Like he's done, we're 5 issues in, he's done 5 completely different styles, none of which look like his regular work. His Moonman work again looks totally different. It's really exciting to be working with someone over a longer stretch of time and really getting to see them. Like, I don't know if he could do this the whole time and just I'd never seen it, or if he's finding it as we go, but really getting to see people stretch and discover new tools in their tool chests is really one of the most exciting parts of the job.
It's the best part about jazz, man. You'll always find a new riff somewhere.
And Deep Cuts is such a vastly, in my opinion, is like it's underrated just because the work that's being done in there, doing each decade and going from New Orleans to Chicago to now with the issue 4 with New York, it's such a unique vision, and yet it tells such a story, self-contained, but yet it keeps the main sense of like the power of music involved with it too. And seeing Igor's work just shine through it, I mean, it's phenomenal.
Yeah, that's one of those books that, like, it is not getting it's not selling 1 billion copies, which I don't think surprised anyone in particular. But I think we all have a hope that, like, once that book is together in trade, and it's it's 6 48-page issues, so it's going to be a real thick trade.
Yeah.
I think once that's a book that can be on shelves with like other music books and in slightly different sections of bookstores to where the comics normally are, I'm really hoping that book will find a sort of second life in that world among like music people and people who don't know a lot about jazz, who really get to discover it through that book. Is the hope.
Instead of taking 8, they're taking 24s or 32s in music terms.
Well played.
Thank you.
But no, but it shows another side of the creativity that's going on, with Black Market Narrative, and especially too, because you have Moonman, Deep Cuts is now out too, and then there's another book. I mean, obviously it's not connected.
No, but it is infernally good.
Yes, it is.
Oh boy.
So I mean, Marty, you know about that one, right?
Yeah. So this book we got an advanced copy of too, and we're actually going to be talking with Noah. I actually kind of booked an interview with him and Ryan and the rest of the creative team, and John. And I'm excited to talk about it because it's like a kind of a horror book. It gave me a little bit of Dark Ride meets old school Dracula, like that book that's out there, but like it's a completely different story, and I freaking love it. It's a really cool concept. And how did that one come about? Because that one, I felt like that one almost came out of nowhere. Like it wasn't really, all of a sudden it's like, boom, Ryan's putting out a new book, and now he's pushing it a ton on socials, and he's showing like all these great pictures of like these demonic the characters and stuff like that to try to drum it up. But like it feels like it came out of nowhere.
Yeah, I mean, I'll let those guys tell you the sort of full story of the backstory, but certainly on my end, I've known Ryan for a couple of years, since before Rogue Sun, like interviewing him for the Power Rangers stuff that he was doing. And he and Noah have known each other for a really long time as well. So as this book started to come together, they found John and Hassan without me. Like the book was sort of assembled. And I think that they just went sort of like, Ryan's done a lot of books, but his only image book is Rogue Sun that I'm also on. This is Noah's first time in comics. John's done a bunch of comics, but in sort of at other publishers who are a bit more hands-on. And I think everyone went like, oh, we could use someone who like knows how this process works at Image and can really help deliver it across the finish line. And so I got to come in, Ryan recommended me, and I had a chat with those guys, and like they're great to work with. It's a great book. It was basically fully formed when I came on. Like issue 1's been done for months and months. Issue 2 is done. Issue 3 is well underway. They knew what the rest of the first arc looked like. I didn't have to do a lot of like molding and shaping. I just got to be like, okay, guys, well, Image says we can release it in February, so this is when everything has to be done by. which is lovely. Lovely when it's nice and simple for me like that. And it's this book, like, I think there's some Succession DNA in there, in that it's also about sort of a father who is looking at the end of his life and is trying to work out who is going to replace him. But instead of those people just being sort of metaphorically the worst people you've ever met, now he is literally the son of the devil, and they are his children with actual magical powers, and they are disputing over who gets to take over his throne afterwards. So it's a really exciting book that I just get to help make come in on time. I don't have to do a lot there.
Yeah, do you know if it's going to be like a mini, or a maxi, or like
I think
ongoing?
the official word right now is, like, the first arc is 5 issues.
Okay.
Everyone knows what they would love to do beyond that. We are just waiting to see what the numbers look like, what the support looks like, before we make a decision either way. But certainly, like, it's a strong 5-issue first arc, and everyone knows what would happen after that, is what I would say.
Nice. That's awesome. Yeah. It feels like it could go a decent run. And it has a good chunk of story behind that. Could be behind it, which is, it's awesome. Really, really excited to see what happens there.
And plus, it's also slated to come out on Valentine's Day. So if anybody's looking for a good gift to pick up, the Infernals #1. I mean, it's.
I'm giving it to my wife.
I'm saying you have to.
I should just, if your partner is sort of like deeply religious, I'm gonna say it might not be the best gift.
Oh, this will be perfect to come right back in my face.
Yeah, just maybe flick through. I think it feels like good advice. Whatever you're going to give your partner on Valentine's Day, just flick through it first. Like, make sure you know what you're giving them.
That's a lesson for life, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, but that's why you should buy 2 copies of it. So then, if one unfortunately is not accepted, you still have one for yourself. See, that's
when they like throw it in the fire because it's cursed or whatever, you've still got one that you can put in your bag and board and save in your collection. Exactly.
So this book is, really different from anything that's in the Massive verse, being how your Maestro Masterverse or Massive verse, excuse me. Was there any really challenges editing this project, or even Moon Man, or, how do you approach this any differently than any of your other books?
I really don't. I think what's interesting is every book is different and needs to be approached differently. But in a lot of ways, that is less about whether or not it takes place in the shared universe, and more just about I don't want to say pedigree, because that's a gross word to use like this, but the experience of the team so far. Like, Radiant Black, Kyle and Marcelo have made a lot of comics. And especially at this point, nearly 30 issues in, have made a lot of comics together and have made a lot of this comic together. So it's not a situation where I need to be super hands-on, right? Because, if Marcelo sends a layout and Kyle has a note, Kyle won't feel weird about giving the note, or like Kyle will just give the note and Marcelo will understand the note nice and easy. On a book like this, you have Ryan and Noah have known each other for a long time, but they're both new to John. Like, they never worked with John before. None of them have ever worked with Hassan before. Actually, odds are good that John has on something, but they've never worked on this project before. So it's a situation where it just have to be like, the emails have to be a little clearer and a little more like, these are the dates. Here is a bullet point list. Everybody, like, make sure that we're all on the same page, in a way that, if this book runs 20 issues, things will get looser in that communication over time, because Noah will know how to make comics in that way. He'll have learnt the process. They'll have all learnt to work together. So that's different. Moon Man is different again, because we've got, again, a new creative team. Kyle knows this comic grind. Marco is kind of a little new. We've got Igor, who knows what he's doing. It's every experience is different because the people are different, and the sort of whether or not it's in the Massive verse I don't know that it would change. It would change some things, because like it would mean coordinating supermassives, and it would mean like making sure they don't blow up the moon, because that'll ruin something else or whatever. No one has plans to blow up the moon at the moment. I always use that as my example, and I don't know why. But there would be a little more sort of making sure it interweaves and intermingles. But for the most part, we don't have those, and it's pretty straightforward, I guess.
Now, since you are King Massiveverse, as we're talking about this, going into the Catalyst War, so far as the biggest event in Massiveverse, and as you are the guardian of Massive, as it is, how's it been your experience so far handling this huge event that's going on?
Something that we talked about really early on when once Kyle and Marcelo had sort of made a plan of like, this is what we want this event to be. And I'd said, are you sure that's going to be a lot of work? And they said, yes. And I was like, okay, cool. One of the things we really talked about was like, how do we do an event comic that doesn't derail all the other books in the universe? Mm-hmm. And so, ultimately what we settled on is this version where it's a big event and a huge thing that's happening where alien robots have invaded Chicago, but they are there to challenge Radiant Black. And they, like, Nathan or Marshall could get help from Bibi or from Dylan or from Cassia if they were able to reach out to her, or no one if that was helpful in some way. But all of this stuff is happening quite fast. They don't know what's going to come next, and it's going to be directed at them. So it doesn't make a lot of sense for like Dylan to move to Chicago for 6 months, and like be Rogue Sun around. And also at the same time, Dylan wasn't Rogue Sun for a while, like he's still not Rogue Sun. He is not in control of his body. Spoilers for Rogue Sun Volume 3. So even if he wanted to go help, he could not go help. BB is her city is under like giant robot martial law, basically. Everybody's got their own stuff going on, which means that the focus of Catalyst War gets to be Radiant Black, and it stays a Radiant Black event while still expanding out in other interesting ways that we will be able to talk about later.
Yeah, I mean, that's something too with this event. Like when it was approached to you, like what was your initial reaction? Because obviously,
oh no, we can't do that. That's insane. Absolutely not.
Yeah, I would have to.
Each issue is 2 issues. That's 2 times as many issues. Absolutely not.
I feel like that's your go-to response. Kyle wants to do what? No, that's nuts. And then you guys do it.
I really try to say yes as much. Like, I don't like being the guy whose job it is to say no, especially because I don't actually have any power to stop anyone from doing these things.
Can we just start a hashtag of damn it, Kyle?
What I try to do is it wouldn't help me, so don't bother. What I try to do when I have objections and concerns is just like articulate them. Be like, okay, if we're going to do this, this is what that is going to mean. This is what we are going to have to do. And then if everybody who has thought about those still says, yes, let's do it, then we've thought about all the problems and we can start considering them ahead of time. So like issue 19 of Rogue Sun, which has not been solicited yet, has a formal twist to it. I don't mean like suit and tie. I mean in the format of the book. Like issue 7 was a choose your own adventure issue, but this is a different thing.
Okay.
And we had some concerns up front about what that formal twist will mean when we're collecting it, right? But what we did was we just talked about them up front. We were like, so I don't know what that means when you put it in a trade. And we came to, well, we think we could do this or this or this. We think there's a bunch of solutions. And once we've made the issue, we'll be able to work out which of those solutions works best and enact that solution, right? And that's sort of how I view my whoa, slow down job is... Yeah. Now that we've considered it, everybody can go full speed ahead on committing to that sort of twist on the format. And then we don't have to stress about how it'll work because we've already stressed about it.
Well, I'm intrigued. So
there will be more information. I think it'll be solicited in either February or March. So you should hear about it pretty soon. With Catalyst War, it's okay. So here are the concerns. we have to get another artist because Marcelo can't draw 2 issues. We probably have to get another colorist because whoever is going to color it can't color that many on that sort of schedule.
Mm.
Beyond that, there's narrative concerns. Like, what does it mean to do split timelines? Which timeline is the timeline going forward? Is it one of them? Is it both of them? Do they merge back together? How does that all resolve? How do those 2 issues cross-play and interact with each other? Because people are going to be reading both. You want people to be reading both. You don't want people to get 2 basically identically stories in a row.
Mhm.
But also, if they're too different, especially early on, they diverge too much and they don't feel like the same timeline with one little split. Also, how do we collect it? Is it a timeline A trade and a timeline B trade? Is it intermixing between them? Are we like alternating pages and chunks from the different series? What are we doing? And then once we've considered all of those questions and come to solutions, it was time to get started on making it happen. And so Kyle and Joe sat down to write 2 endings for issue 25, and we haven't stopped since.
Yeah, I mean, it's such an ambitious task too, because like to think about the whole idea came out, like to take it back to the Jason Todd vote, if you will,
Thank you.
and then to
Yep.
put that fate of the main character in the fans' hands. I mean, it's so ambitious and like so next level thinking too, and then to see it play out that like this has just been such an ambitious task moving forward, because you do have 2 separate storylines going on, and you're like, if you read both of them, you're getting the entire story. But even if you don't, you follow your favorite Radiant Black, it still plays out that you're going like, this is one heck of an event. And then when you know how this is all going to end is going to be anybody's guess. But it's just such a next level of thinking.
Since you brought that up, here's what I want to know. Who do you think is going to be Radiant Black after the event? And is it the person you voted for?
If you guys want me to go first.
It's no one. It's no one.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Get out of
No
here.
one.
You know-
Do you mean no one, the character from the book No One, or no one, not a person?
No one, not a person.
Interesting. Okay.
Okay. I think it's going to be Marshall, and I voted Team
Okay.
Nathan. I am Team
Okay.
Nathan all day.
Do you feel like that was the correct vote given what you've seen so far?
As in like, if I think Marshall is worthy of it.
You know, like things have gone interesting directions for the 2 of them.
Yeah.
So far, if Nathan was Radiant Black and Nathan's timeline was the one that stayed,
Gotcha.
would you be happy with the vote that you made?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I really think that there's more to it. Like, I think with Nathan's is just for me personally, it's just more interesting dynamic. Like with Marshall,
Okay.
Marshall's a little more, just a little more I don't want to say careless because I don't think that's the right word, but he's a little more reckless in certain degrees, which I mean, it's high risk, high reward. But I think for how things have played out, I think Nathan's story is kind of just for me as a reader, like I connect with a little more.
Okay.
If I can
Yeah,
go on about that real quick, I think that with
Yeah.
everything that's been going on with the back and forth, who's Radiant Black and Powers and the 2 separate timelines, I honestly think I wouldn't be surprised if you guys just flip the script and go with someone new right at the end. That's okay. This happened. Boom, done. That's what it is. Like
It's a possibility,
if we're gonna
sure.
go in 2 directions, say sharp left. There's the 3rd route.
Braden,
Could be
Oh, jeez.
anybody. It's their baby. They can
Yeah.
write it how they want.
I was gonna say he could be the ultimate option there. Marty, go. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine.
Your pick,
So
yep.
yeah. So I mean, up until the event, like I thought Marshall was doing a good job coming into his own. I saw it, you see his faults. I was like, okay, I could see Marshall being the guy. But throughout this event and what you guys have done from a writing and, you make us care about both characters, which makes it really challenging. And at the end of each issue, I feel myself flip-flopping between who I wanted and who I didn't want. And like right now, like I think, the way that Nathan is going, like he's more worthy of it right now, in my opinion, for sure. Just given his leadership abilities, his thought process and how he's tackling problems, his teamwork aspect of bringing people together. It's got that like Power Rangers vibe to it, or, teamwork makes the dream work. Like you're going to get better. You're going to do more together. So I think, right now, like it's definitely Nathan, but I can totally see, it going left and us ending up with somebody new. I could probably see myself somehow flipped again at the end of this next issue, because I mean, you've got what, 28, 29, and 30. So like just thinking about it story wise, right? It's going to get crazier in 28. 29 is going to be an absolute like wrecking ball of an issue. And then 30, like you got two timelines. So either you're going to put them back together, you're going to keep them split and have infinite Earths. And I know you guys were using the crisis and then the infinite Earths, like the titles and the play on jokes and stuff. And I love that because, you know, it's just like, I read Crisis of Infinite Earths, you know, a little while ago, and I was like, this is like ridiculous. And so, you know, just having that little interplay is great. It's our version of it where we can all relate to it. But on top of that though, like, how is everything that's going on with the Catalyst War, right? All the worlds are interconnected. You have Supermassive 2024 coming out. You got IGR Book 2 coming out, which we're all super excited for. And it's got to be the lasting effects of whatever happens at the end of this has to have some sort of ripple effects into the rest of the universe in some way, shape, or form. Rogue Sun, you know, maybe whatever happens has some ripple effects into that little tidbit of what you were describing earlier of the Rogue Sun book. I mean, Dead Lucky, we don't know what's happening with Dead Lucky. It's going to be like 12 issues that we know of right now. Maybe the Catalyst War ends her character for now and we see her doing cameos or something at a later date. Like, so I feel like there's a real lot of implications that are going to happen in 30, and it's probably going to make me cry.
I guess all that I would say from here is, like, obviously, for people who read both versions of issue 27, that very much cements those two as very different going forward.
Big time.
In not in just in universe terms, but in sort of meta-textual, like stepping back, like a bad thing happened to a guy, and that's gonna change those two. So 28 and 29 are similar in the ways you've seen so far, but are starting to grow much more different. 29 and 30 are where sort of the brakes come off the veering apart, and you start getting quite different stories between those two issues. And you know, we had a call quite recently to just really make sure that everyone was on the same page and locking some stuff in. I am really fascinated to see what people's opinions are, because, like, I saw the results of the vote, and we can't talk about it yet. It feels insane to not be able to talk about it because it was, you know, 6-7 months ago at this point. But
wow, yeah.
Once we're at the end of the event, we can really talk about who people picked and how we ended up where we've ended up and all of that. It's gonna be exciting times.
Do we have a number between how many this way or how many that way? How many votes it was this way?
I don't have it to hand. From memory, it was never further apart than like 60-40.
Wow.
That's you said, Jason.
It was
Todd.
Yeah.
That's
it was always very close.
That's the testament of the writing and the art and everything working together in concert, and having you guys like make us care about these characters.
I think that was the dream, right? Because if the vote had gone 100-0, then if everybody wants the same thing, then we've screwed up doing a vote, because we could have just done it and everyone would have been happy. And why did we put all this time into it? The fact that it was really razor's edge for almost the entire time means that people will have strong opinions. And I guess what I hope is, once we resolve everything, people whose vote didn't win, whether that's half of you or all of you, because it's no one or a brand new person, I hope that those people will understand where the book is at moving forward from there, and will stick around with us for a bit to see what the book looks like, you know, volume 7, issue 31 and beyond.
Now, with that, you know, we've got, obviously Marty touched on it, Supermassive 2024. Is this going to take place right after the resolution, or a little bit further down past the Catalyst War, that things are kind of now cemented, or is it just going to be raw that we have to deal with it right in that? If that's too much, I mean,
this
is why I do this.
Supermassive 2024 takes place very, very close to the end of Catalyst War.
Okay.
It like the consequences of the event will play out in that book in some ways. What exactly that means, I will, there's still 3 issues for you to find out what the consequences of that event are. But yeah, I think it's fair to say that book will be coming out after Catalyst War ends. And the reason for that is we want you to have read the end of Catalyst War before you get to that event.
That being said, would you say Supermassive 2024 is the epilogue to the Catalyst War?
Ooh, like it.
In some ways and not in others. Like, the thing about Supermassive is it will do the same thing that all of our other Supermassives did, which is we really want it to stand alone. So it is not an epilogue in the sense that we will like collect it with the end of Catalyst War and you have to read it to understand what's going on going forward. What I think it will do is it will give you some additional information about some things that are going on sort of at the end of that event, if that is something that you are interested in picking up, and it's going to be a real banger. I hope you do.
Mm-hmm.
But it will also, also continue like Rogue Sun after issue 18's not out, but after issue 18, we've sort of got a slightly different new status quo in that book. And it will pick up some of that as well. It'll pick up with where Bibi is at the end of her volume 2. I don't want to say who else is in it, but some other folks, maybe potentially.
IGR?
Who can say? I very specifically capped my list before I said Cassia was in it. Yep. So it's up to you to find out if she is in the book once we've announced it properly. But we've built a surprisingly big universe, and there's a lot of folks who could start showing up in these things. And some of them will. So I'm very excited about it. I think we had a couple of different ideas for it, and we settled on something that's really exciting to me and really interesting. I don't think we've said who the artist is, but the artist has started. And I owe them an email about their layouts, actually, so I should really get on that this afternoon. But their work is going to look really cool. I'm very excited to watch you guys react to this book once it's out.
It's one of my most anticipated books of 2024. You said something there about surprise guests, so to speak. Does that mean we're getting some new additions to the Massive verse, or are we just kind of alluding to cameos?
Yeah, I guess I will say at this point, I would not be expecting the Massive verse to expand a lot at the moment.
Okay.
Like, frankly, just from a production standpoint, everybody's run to pretty much their edges.
Mm-hmm.
If we were to reach a point where like a couple of books were to reach a natural end, start to wrap up, then potentially those books might get replaced by other things. But I would say like we're not going to bring you like a brand new character coming out of Supermassive 2024.
Okay.
But I think like all of our books have exciting broad casts in them now.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And like, here's one that I will say that is not in Supermassive 2024, but I have it sort of written down, is like, it feels like it would be weird for no one to show up in a Supermassive just because like, what's that guy doing there? How'd he get there? But I would really love one day to get Teddy and Julia, the reporters from No One, out to Chicago to like work on a story, or like in New Orleans on a holiday, like
on location.
Every book has not just main characters, but supporting characters. And all of them are, technically speaking, provided they survive their stories that they're currently in, available for us to tell stories with at some point down the line. And that's all I'll say on the matter for now.
Okay.
So I want to flip the script just a little bit from here.
Sure.
We've been talking a ton about books. I want to talk about this really, really cool concept that you guys have for new readers that's coming out very soon, that we're very excited about, that you announced on Twitter and other social platforms, about having the collected first editions of all the books. So us at Nerd Initiative, we're definitely going to be doing a giveaway for that because we think that's really cool. I mean, for this personally for me hits me in the feels because I got into comics and like 4 years ago, and here I am now talking to you guys and, you know, writing reviews and stuff like that. Radiant Black was my first true book that I picked up and that I connected with after Invincible. I picked up Invincible because of the show, heard Kyle on the Invincible podcast, and I was like, wow, this sounds really awesome. So like this hits me, like I'm almost crying right now. This hits me in the feels, and I've gone down this path ever since. But like what you guys are doing is really cool, and that's a really cool concept, and I love that. I know the market right now around trying to keep readers connected is rough, or not as good, not as favorable, we'll say. What other type of things besides that are you trying, because this world is so established now, to bring in new readers and to keep existing readers with the additional things that you're doing media wise to try to kind of keep the momentum going?
What I would say is, just for anyone who hasn't seen this news, in July, we've got a trade coming out. It's called Across the Massiveverse Volume 1. It collects issue 1 of Radiant Black, Rogue Sun, The Dead Lucky, and Inferno Gold Red Book 1. It's $9.99. It's regular trade paperback size. But I think the thing that we've discovered is that when we can put these books in people's hands, people really get into them. Like, I think you guys understand that. I think a lot of people who are listening to this one understand that. Like, there's good stuff in there. The problem is, by God, the number of entertainment options that people have, even within comics, but certainly once you take a step back outside of comics. Like, if I just listen to every podcast I've heard is good, that would be me settled for the rest of my life. They'd never have to make new podcasts. So what we wanted is, we've got this whole broad spectrum of books, and I think people who love some books will love other books, but I've certainly seen and certainly understand every book has, I don't think there's any book we've put out where I haven't seen someone being like, that's my favorite and that's my least favorite, right? And so what we wanted was a really affordable way that people could jump in and discover the universe. And like, if they pick this book up and they go, oh, I really like Rogue Sun and The Dead Lucky, and Radiant Black and Inferno Gold Red are not for me, great, we've got those books. Like, there's more of both of those that you can go out and get. But you just got to find out for like $2 a book, basically, which of those things you really liked. And it's good for you guys. It's good for us. It's something that all of our people can have at tables at conventions for really, like, $10 is a great entry price, I think.
That's a steal.
It's getting a sampler pack. It's literally, you're giving it a sampler pack.
Yeah.
And so getting to say, like, okay, you're interested in everything. I could sell you volume 1 of all of our books. I'd love it if you were willing to do that. If you're not ready to jump in yet, here's Across the Massiveverse Volume 1. Check out a couple of different things, see what really speaks to you. And then once you're invested, you can come back and pick up all of the rest of it and discover the breadth of the universe. So I'm really excited about this. This book has been on the cards for, I want to say, like 18 months or something. And it was just, production reasons, schedule reasons, that we finally put it on the calendar and are finally getting it to come out. In terms of other stuff we're doing, like, do you guys know about the Massiveverse fighting card game?
Yes.
Yes. Looks so cool. Oh, we gonna get a tease?
Yeah, I've got, so
Ooh.
I can hold this up. I can show you this great box that I designed with the help of the wonderful Dan Mora. This is coming out. It's coming to Kickstarter in the next couple of months. These are some sort of early production sort of test versions that we sent out to a couple of people. I'll show you here. We've got all of these cards that I sleeved full of original art and cool gameplay. Matt and I played a couple of rounds of this on the weekend. I think he beat me 3 times in a row. That's fine, and I'm not mad about it at all.
Yeah, okay.
That, again, is a project that, first of all, is obviously something that we really wanted to do and really love to do. Getting to design an entire card game is very much a dream come true for me. But also, my hope is that puts the Massiveverse on a completely different kind of store shelf that we have not been on in the past. There's a whole bunch of people who might be looking at a Marvel game and a DC game and see this next to it and go, I don't know what that is.
Mhm.
And there's a flyer in here that tells them a bit more about what the Massiveverse is and how they can find some stuff out. We've got, I think our website's on the back cover somewhere. And then hopefully, if they could go from that to, I don't know, say Across the Massiveverse Volume 1, which contains the first issue of all 4 of those characters' stories. And then, if we're lucky, we just got potentially a brand new to comics person. We might have just gotten a board gamer into the whole ecosystem of comics.
Mhm.
That's the dream, right?
Smart.
And on top of that, for all of the people like you and I who already love this stuff, we made a kick-ass card game. The guys at Solus did such a great job with this thing. I'm so happy with it. And it's stuff like that I'd love to do more of in the future. Matt and I play a lot of video games and send a lot of messages like, we couldn't build a video game, right? And the answer is no, we couldn't. We're all way too busy and we don't have the skills to do it.
But you could.
But if the right partner came along, someone who had the skills and the experience, it's I think a lot of people say things like it would be great if they made an animated TV show or a live action TV show, and God forbid, like if anyone's out there with like $10 million, yeah, great, send it to us, we'll make that happen. But my hope is that we can, while we keep the books going, explore some of these other sort of multimedia tie-in possibilities and try and just expand the world for the people who love it and expand the visibility for the people who don't know that they love it yet.
If you're going to build a video game, you have to have a bonus world of hold ball or a mini game of hold ball. You got to tell Matt that.
I mean, he wrote all of those
awesome.
rules for that sport. It's
Straight
so
up.
complicated,
Yeah,
and it shows up not at all. I don't think this is a spoiler.
2 panels.
I think there's a hold ball section in Inferno Go Red Book 2, just because
nice.
Matt was like, we have to. I wrote all of these rules. It has to show up. I don't actually remember if it ended up in the script or not. If it didn't, I'm going to demand it be in book 3.
It needs to be.
Yes.
Please.
Although I do also kind of like the idea of them constantly going to this weird field that's like half parkour course, half basketball, and we never see anyone play a sport on it ever.
It's like 3 seashells.
Yeah.
Exactly. We just never explain it.
Oh my God.
So aside from everything that's going on with the Massiveverse, with Moon Man, with Infernals, I mean, the card game, like what else do you have going on? I mean, we've got the podcast also, we got the Ranger Danger going on with our wonderful friend Matt, I mean, what don't you have going on?
Sleep, healthy relationships, food, all of the stuff. This, I'm not going to lie. You know how it sounds like a lot of stuff? It's a lot of stuff and it's a lot of work. And that's what I said earlier about part of the goal of this year is like really trying to streamline as much of those processes as possible to make it a little healthier for everybody who's involved. There's a few more projects that we have not announced yet that are, I guess, what I would describe as active. Like there's a couple of other things that are sort of blue sky, maybe someday, let's talk to some people and see if it happens. There's 2 new comics projects that will be announced within the next 6 months. I don't know specifically when, I think. Both of which are really exciting for really different reasons. And I think people will really dig them once I am allowed to talk about what they are, which is just not yet.
Oh, come on. You're Commander Massiveverse. You can tell us.
One of them I would get in a lot of trouble and one of them I would get in slightly less trouble. So I cannot do that. But yeah, we've got some stuff coming still this year that will surprise you.
We like stuff.
I like surprises.
Well, I mean,
I hope that they're good surprises. I think they are.
Well, it's a testament to the brand that you guys have created. I mean, and this is no lie. I mean, this is 100% fact. When we go into a comic shop and there's a new Massiveverse book that comes out or an event book that comes out, fans are talking and fans have raised that expectation that high, and rightfully so because of the quality of work that everybody's putting in. So yeah, I mean, I could imagine just fans are going to be excited to hear about the new projects coming out, and hopefully that just carries in through the remainder of the year. I mean, obviously, to see where it's been to where it's now, and just the excitement going on with the Catalyst War, the end of No One coming out, Supermassive 2024, IGR book 2, and then everything else coming with it. I mean, it's just, so much amazing work. And then just to keep snowballing and just keep growing this out. I mean, that's got to be the biggest, testament there.
And it also, you obviously can tell this isn't editing. Ken and I are actually in the same spot. You go into our local shop, like everything you guys do is in one giant shelf.
Yep.
No kidding. And then every single week when the new one comes out, it goes right up on the new releases, and it's not like just off to the left. It is right there. So when you turn right into the store, straight down in front of you, you're going to see the new stuff.
That's really lovely to hear. And I guess my hope is, like, obviously I hope the books sell because it lets us keep doing the books, but also we've had a lot of support from retailers over the last couple of years. And I really hope the books sell for them. Like, I hope that their support of us is rewarded in people supporting those stores and going and getting those books from them. And it has to be a relationship that works for everybody. And my hope is, I think it's working for us at the moment. I think it's working for readers. I really hope it's working for retailers as well, that when they see a book that we've put together, they know that they can trust us and take a bit of a swing on it. And like, we'll see. It's a complicated business to be in, comics. But I think things are going pretty good. So
we're not complaining.
I have no complaints. Yeah. Me either. Well, sometimes I am complaining, but not when I'm on podcasts.
It's all right to complain, but and obviously for what you all have done, I mean, this has just really just been such a DIY movement, and especially for readers like Marty, who's just coming into comics and having just this work and being so open for new readers to come in, and then even older ones like myself who really like to see superhero stories, but I don't like it feeling like it's the same old stuff, and like seeing a kind of reflection of the times we live in. And I think that is what you and everybody at the team at Black Market Narrative have do flawlessly. So I mean,
thank you.
Oh,
really appreciate that. I mean, we're trying. That's all. That's really all any of us can do, and it's really gratifying when it really resonates with people. So thanks.
No, absolutely. Like I think you guys are just so next level about connecting with today's audience too, from the podcast, QR codes, the little things like that is just making it so easy for fans to jump in. And I know when I've handed off books to new fans that are trying to look for something new, I'm always handing off Massiverse stuff. Tom is probably prime example. We don't talk about this on air a lot, but that's how he got introduced to it. And now it's, snowballing into more people getting involved. But it's just a reflection of the work being done. So
I do have a question around kind of you learning the editorial business. Like,
yeah,
I know there's been talks where you have never edited a comic book, and here you are like orchestrating a ridiculous mayhem of organized chaos between a multitude of creators. For someone that is like interested in getting into either editing comics or the business, what are some advice that you have for somebody thinking about doing it, and what type of skills do you wish you knew when you first started to kind of like, that you could give to somebody?
Okay, so step one is you've got to start a Power Rangers podcast.
Yes.
You just have to, right? I know one way in that has ever worked, and it's start a Power Rangers podcast. So you do that. You got to do that for like 6 years of basically no one listening. Then some guy will come on your podcast. He'll ask you for some help with his Power Rangers comics. ... He'll ask you to edit Radiant Black. No, I don't. I wish I could answer that question. Really, I do. I don't. The only way in that I know is mine, and I cannot recommend my way in. I guess you should read a lot of comics and try and find people who are making them and try to help them make them. I think the skill that I have that is the most useful as an editor is I can do everything a little bit. And I like I can't write a book like Kyle or Ryan or Melissa or Matt or any of the thousands of writers. I certainly can't draw a book like Erica or Abel or Eduardo or Marcelo or French, or I'm not going to list everyone I've ever worked with. I can't letter a book like Becca or Haas. I can't color a book like Igor or Natalia. But in a situation where like there's a line of dialogue that Kyle can't find, or there's a bit of colors that, oh, we've changed the line art and it needs a color tweak, but the colorist is working on another thing and won't be available, or like the balloon's in the wrong panel and we got the note back, but it's got to go to press tomorrow. I am able to do all of those things to the tiniest degree to like just take a bit of extra stress off someone else's plate. And I think, I don't know if the situation would be like that if I was at a publisher. Like, I think in those situations, I would have slightly different responsibilities. But on India books, like the ones that we're making, me being able to say to like Becca, hey, Becca, you're currently lettering 2 issues of Radiant Black. I got notes on Rogue Sun, which I can do like these 3, can you do these 2, and just help out a little, I think is incredibly valuable because it saves some other people a little bit of stress. And that's the real top line description of my job, is trying to save other people's stress where possible.
So to put it in Power Rangers terms, you're Billy post Zeo.
Yes, I'm Alpha 5. I'm not out there fighting, but I can help like build a gun that'll help you destroy a guy or whatever. That's a very bad Power Rangers metaphor. I normally could do a better job.
That's why I said Billy.
That's what I would say about that. I think the skill that I am developing still, that I'm trying to learn, is working out which people, which jobs, which books need more structured help and attention. This is not to throw anyone under the bus. There are some people who, if I say, here is the deadline in 3 months, here is everything you need, go for it, they will put that into their own calendar around all their other work, and they will deliver the work, and I don't need to do anything. There are other people who, if I say this is the deadline, it's in 3 months, need checking in with. And it's never because those people are lazy or like uninterested. It's because those people have other stuff going on and more balls that they're juggling, and needing to be like, hey, this is now due in 2 months. Are we on track? Do we need to push anything? You know, hey, this is now due in 1 month. Is everything going to come in on time? I think working out who those people are need, because the people who are fine don't need that attention and in fact don't want it, right? There's nothing more annoying than when you're like, I'm going to do that on Friday, and on Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday, someone is like, have you done it yet? And it's like, no, I need it for Monday. I'm going to do it on Friday. But what you don't want is to give that to the other people who are like, oh God, I forgot about it completely. When's it due again? So trying to work out who needs the more focused attention and who wants and prefers to be left alone is, I don't know that I'm ever going to work it out completely. It's always going to take a couple of months of working with someone to really get a handle on it. But I think I've worked out that it's a problem that some people need and some people don't. And now it's just working out where to apply that leverage when necessary. I think if you could come into this business with that skill, I think you would be well ahead of some other people.
That's incredible. That resonates with me a lot. I mean, what you're describing is a leader. Like, you are essentially the leader of the Massiveverse in a lot of ways, where you're mentoring a lot of the junior people that are learning the craft as they go and up and coming, and then trying to figure out exactly what you need to do to get the job done in working with the different dynamics of people. Like, that's a true leader, and that's amazing. The way that you describe it. And I think, that's all good stuff for folks that are interested in potentially becoming that. So you are deemed the leader, as much as probably, you're deemed, you're definitely a leader of the Massiveverse. You're Mr. Massiveverse that people
I have been going around that all night.
I did it. He's gonna hate me, but I did it.
It's fine. It's interesting, right? Because I do understand that. And there is sometimes the sort of feeling that if I disappeared, some of the trains would start to crash into each other. But also, I feel so weird about the title just because I don't feel like I'm in control of anything. Like, I don't have any say in what happens in any of these books. I give advice and suggestions and notes. And if Ryan's like, no, I'm going to kill all of the supporting cast and bring a new supporting cast into Rogue Sun,
Why do you have to throw
I
Ryan under the
can't
bus like that?
stop.
Like,
Just because Ryan has the craziest ideas that sometimes I have to talk him down from. That's
Oh,
not
yeah.
actually true. It's
He's one of my
truly,
favorites.
it's not Ryan.
Yeah.
But like, if the creative teams on these books want to do something, my job is actually to facilitate it, not to stop it.
So are you
And
the
I'd like to
massive
think-
hand? We can just call you the massive hand instead of Mr. Masterverse.
I don't know that that's any better. Especially because my
Tom.
hands are, I think, a normal size, and I don't want people to get some sort of weird impression. All of which is just to say, like, it feels less like being in charge and more like being like a record producer. Like, it's the band's album. All I'm here to do is try and make sure they're all making the best version of the album that they want.
So is it safe
yeah.
to say you have the Midas touch or the massive touch? Maybe we can go that route.
I mean, listen,
Okay, he's
let's
taking my thunder.
wait until we
Sorry.
get like a 6-movie series and like everybody starts making millions of dollars. Things are doing great, but I don't feel like I have the magical ability to make a book sell 100,000 copies at launch yet,
Yeah.
Let's give it a little time and see what happens before we get there.
In all seriousness, I like to listen to your thought processes and methodologies around it because it resonates with me, in my normal job, because I do a lot of, that I lead a team, and a lot of what you're saying resonates with me just around mentorship and deadlines and figuring things out and just really working with people. And not a lot of people have that ability and really have that high EQ to be able to figure that out. And I feel like that's a big skill to have in this industry. So thank you for sharing that.
It's all right.
No, absolutely. Before we let you go, obviously the question that I know Tom and I are asking, and I think Marty is actually going to be making his first appearance this fall. Con season is coming up. I'm sure you guys are planning something for San Diego, but is New York back in the plans?
And I'm going to see you at PMC.
I don't think I will be out in America this year, unfortunately. I would love to, but I don't know if you guys know this. It's so far away from Australia.
Yeah.
It's like so far. It's like Australia's here and America is all the way on the other side of the big globe. And also the planes cost so much money. So at the moment, there's one event later in the year that might tempt me out. I'm not sure yet. But other than that, I think my plan is hopefully with Matt to do a bunch of Australian cons. So if you guys have any listeners in Australia, we're kind of hoping to be at most of them or all of, certainly anything on the East Coast. So Sydney,
Supernova,
Brisbane, Melbourne, Supernovas, Oz Comic Cons. None of that is locked in yet, but we're certainly talking about like trying to get to as many of those as we can. I don't know when I'll be out in America next, unfortunately. Luckily, it's not just me. We've got, Kyle and Ryan and Melissa and all of the other people that we work with. Hopefully some of our artists will get back out to America. I know Marcelo has been talking about it for a couple of years at this point, but it's just never been the right time and the right able to get a visa in time. I hope that you will see some of us at whatever big convention you go to, but unfortunately this year I do not think it's going to be me.
Well, I mean, it's a bummer, but like I said, we had a great time meeting you last year at New York Comic Con and just kind of seeing what the Massiverse was planning on doing, because obviously with such big events going on, I can imagine that the fans are going to be wanting to know, especially when con seasons are now ramping up, about what the plans are going to be for that. Because I know last year at San Diego was a massive one, no pun intended, but a lot of news came out of that one. And I know New York, you guys definitely made an imprint down there. So just excited to see what the fan reaction is going to be for that. And then
we will try to be wherever people are. And like I know once we get into con season, like Kyle loves going to those things. So we'll be in places and around and showing up. But It is just, we're less than 3 weeks into the year, so it's a little early for us to say where we're going to be at this point.
No, that's fair. No, absolutely. And I was going to say, that said, like, what is the biggest takeaway that you want our listeners and readers of the Massiverse to have about the upcoming year of projects? Like, what's the one kind of statement that you guys are really trying to focus around?
Interesting. That's an interesting question. I think there's a lot we're in a period right now, as I talk to you, where a lot of stuff is coming to the ends of stories. Like, we're reaching the end of Dead Lucky Volume 2, Rogue Sun Volume 3 of Catalyst War. Those are sort of our big ongoings. No one's about to come to a close as well. And what I think is that the stories that we have beyond that are some really exciting stuff that I think if people are already on board with us, like I talked to Ryan the other day about Volume 4 of Rogue Sun and what that looks like and what it might look like beyond that. Kyle and Marcelo and I are starting to talk about what Radiant Black looks like after the Catalyst War. Inferno Gold Red Book 2 is underway. We've talked a little already about Supermassive 2024. I think if people are not on board yet, hopefully this is the best year for us to be putting stuff together for you to start getting on board. Stuff like that sampler trade. And if you are on board, I think the ride to the end of these stories and then beyond, we've got some big stuff planned, and I hope you will stick with us for them.
No, absolutely. I mean, I think if anybody is not on board by now, it's the perfect time to get on board, because with all the events going on, plus the sampler book that is coming out in the summer, and then whatever else is going to be the fallout from the Catalyst War, it's a perfect time to jump into this universe, because I say it once, I'll say it a million times on here and in print. This is comics' most exciting universe for a reason. And if you pick up an issue and you're not sold on it, check your pulse, because honestly, this is some of the best work in comics today. Michael, we can't say thank you enough for coming on the show. And anything else you want to plug before we get on out of here?
I should mention, so Moonman 1 is out January 31st. The Infernals 1 is out February 14th. Obviously, the launch of a book is really important to determining how much more of the book we get to do. So I think Moonman 1 has already been on FOC, but it's not too late to go in and see if your store can order over copies from Diamond. And, if we have to go to a second printing, we'd love to go to a second printing.
Yes.
Infernals, is this going to go out this week, next week?
It'll be out by the end of this week.
Okay. Infernals. Okay, so Infernals 1, you can still order. FOC is, I think, next Monday, the 22nd. So you can get to your store, you can check it out. I think that's a really exciting book. If you like that sort of book, I think it's a great version of that sort of book. Those are the big things to plug, because they're sort of like about to launch. Everything else has issues coming out as issues come out. Keep an eye on everybody's socials to find out when that is. And more news on some pretty big announcements within the next month or two, I think.
Excellent to hear. In the liner notes of this podcast and on the streaming sites, we're going to have links to the Black Market Narrative website, Michael's socials, and comic book shop locator, because we definitely want to make sure you're going down to the shops. Place your orders in now. Trust me, you're not going to want to miss the projects that are coming out. And if you can hear the sound of my voice, you need to run down there and make sure you get yourself at least 2 copies, because you definitely want to make sure you're supporting everything they're doing, because it's going to be a tremendous year of great creativity. And if you're not on board, I can't say it enough. Get on board now and don't miss it. Michael, thank you again for checking us out, stopping by to talk to us. We definitely have to catch up with you after the Catalyst War comes out. So definitely.
Yeah, let's talk later in the year once you know who won the vote and can get mad at me in a podcast.
Okay, I'm definitely...
Challenge accepted.
Challenge is definitely accepted for that.
But let's try and have Kyle on that so you can actually get mad at him and not get mad at me.
Any creators of the Massiverse are welcome to come through here anytime. There's just a simple email, and we will definitely make that happen.
All right, guys. Thank you so much.
Oh, absolutely. On behalf of Marty Stoked, Tom Craven, my name is Ken M, and we'll end this like we do each and every episode of Turn a Page. When you're at the comic shop and you have a great issue from the Massiverse in your hands and you see somebody struggling to find something at the shelves, hand yours off to them. Tell them to turn a page. We'll see you next time.
It's such waste of time, swiping left and swiping right on people you could know. Cause anyone who's worth a damn be worth way more than a picture could ever show. You could find the right light, find the right angle, and never find your soul. And it can feel like a losing battle, and this plot is full of holes. This modern way of finding love just makes me feel so alone. And I can't be the only one sick of staring at my phone. So look up, talk to me, a better way to spend our energy. Just look up, talk to me. We don't have to float alone on the open sea. Don't know that I believe in the old time fable. Everyone has just one true love. All I know is you're across this table, and you're all I'm thinking of. So look up, talk to me, a better way to spend our energy. Just look up, talk to me. We don't have to float alone on the open sea. Talk to me. Talk to me. It's such waste of time, swiping left and swiping right on people you could know.